Good day to you my fellow endoskeletons, I'm Kenetor and welcome back for another Starbase progress report. We're on week 46 of 2021 and if you're new here I bring you the latest news and updates of everything Starbase every Monday. So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss out. Now let's get to it. While we didn't quite get the updates to capitals we were hoping for in last week's PTU patch, we did get a whole bunch of fixes, and we saw the first part of endo looting come into the game in the form of players losing inventory but not armor sets when either dying or transferring back to a station from outside the main safe zone, or to a different safe zone than the one they are in. Hopefully we can get some capital ship dock improvements and the capital ship expansion this week. The devs put out a new fun vlog style video starring Pip and I think for the first time on camera Elu too. They talked about the new upcoming features, touched on the mistakes they have made on the roadmap, and featured some community content. It was certainly a fun and informative watch and I'll be sure to link it below if you haven't seen it yet. Larry was also back to peak form in delivering golden nuggets of info while answering community questions on Discord, so sit tight, we've got a lot to go through. First up is an explanation on the new capital ship command panel setups that we saw in last week's gallery. One of these showed an area that looked like you could add your own buttons, so Larry was quizzed on this. And if the blue areas were for the cap ship control screens. Larry answers capital screens yes, but the buttons are fixed to the stuff seen on the screens. No YOLO, and customization is done by choosing a setup you like. Each screen has multiple variants. They are the capital ship control screens, which have fixed content, and he thinks those empty button areas are just placeholders for concept reasons. The screens have a lot of adjustable progress bars, so the levers are for those. Hopefully that clears things up for anyone who was wondering, and it looks like we're not far from final implementation of these screens if they are just going to show already existing and working screens. Definitely something to look forward to here. Further improvements are also planned for the moon's surface, but this time more in the form of control rather than digging, as Larry informs us they will be adding both height and levelling ground in the future too. I'm getting Valheim vibes already. Moving on to our next quote, Larry answers about the better hosting of ships and tells us a better host management system is planned, and admits the current system is a mishap from their end. Then answering someone asking for force hosting of their own ship, saying that this is already working. Starbase has seen its share of hosting issues for sure, so knowing this area is already flagged for improvement gives me some peace of mind. Another area many people want to see improved however is the armor system. And I can't help but agree here. We went from a bad system in closed alpha to the less bad but not really optimal system we have now. That is, for those that don't know, armor is dependent on voxel size of the piece of armor. Larry says they have this one idea that would replace armor with a much more logical system, but they need to explore it more. I wish we could have more details on this potential replacement to discuss it more, but since we can't, I'd like to recommend one I saw community member Cody put forward on the forum. Each piece in the game already has fracture damage pre-calculated into a Veroni mesh. These pieces all end up being roughly the same size, with bigger plates having more pieces and smaller plates less. These individual parts would have their own armor level based on the material used, and therefore equal out the spread of armor and kill the large plate meta, and bring you the ability to focus more on the design and looks rather than limiting yourself to using the largest parts you can find. It won't solve every issue of the current armor system, but it's certainly a start and is smart in its approach of using something the game already has, thus reducing the work needed to implement such a system. Now I know that may be oversimplifying it a little, but you get my point. Another point I've seen a handful of people make is they want faster ships or a smaller game universe, and Larry addresses this last week too. He says the game needs to evolve to drive meaningful interaction often enough, i.e. trade, cooperation and wars. We don't need to shorten distances, we just need to shorten the time spent to reach the interaction, which can be done with speed and with hotspots. Capital ships will offer multiple ways to reduce travel time greatly. First is speed, second is that you can accumulate a lot more speed by charging the ship, which can be done offline or while you're doing something else. But the regular speed update for short distances will be available without even much charging. I'm definitely with Larry on this one because for me, the vastness of Starbase has been an appeal by itself. Yeah, it sucks to fly for hours, but when it comes to things like reaching a faraway moon, it's a really rewarding challenge to complete that otherwise wouldn't be in a smaller, faster universe. Another quote, another feature update, this time on recycling. Larry says he would imagine recycling finalization in winter to spring next year. Now in Larry time that could mean Christmas next year, but with major features out of the way, this could be brought online a lot quicker than other features we have waited for. Larry goes on to say planned salvage recycling mechanics require, or at least greatly benefit from mechanical disassembly of parts or sections of the ship. First benefit is intact, valuable parts are more valuable as is. Second is that smaller chunks are faster to recycle, especially if their material content is not too varying. And this is a second from a different angle. The chunks need to physically fit in the furnace smelting them. So a saw extension configured to brute force cut grids out of a wreck is a pretty primitive way of automated recycle of anything. That being said, he thinks the bolt tool extension works for salvage too, so he wouldn't scrap it just yet. They both have their uses. Bolt end requires access, while the saw can waste a bit of material but gets further, and they will see once they get there. Now Larry is of course talking about the robotic arm attachments here, like the bolt tool seen on one in the first trailer. I know a lot of people are interested in the scrapping mechanics as well as being able to reclaim ores from melting down ships instead of just trying to reclaim all of the parts. As if you have enough salvage, it may well be a lot faster to take the hit on parts and production time to only keep the parts you need and scrap the rest. And having all this set up gives you yet more of a reason to have a station, since we know furnaces will eat a lot of energy. Another thing we haven't seen much on for Starbase is the claiming of space and making money from this via taxes. But Larry expands on this a little more, saying owning a fair piece of the universe with passive ore gain, tax rights, trading and other direct benefits from interactions will certainly make someone else want to own that exact spot as well, driving conflict. And what might those taxes be? Well, Larry says mining tax and trading tax, and continues there will be ways to own much larger areas than just what one single station does. And for large areas, the amount of interaction will be key to who of the companies gets the largest area, and the runner-up might not like the situation and solve it with bombs. He details that someone has a massive dynamic safe zone and they offer protection for miners who in return pay tax. Now we have no details on how this tax will be implemented, maybe a pay first for entry and mine second kind of deal, but this could certainly drive people to build large mining hubs and pirates a reason to raid them. Worth keeping an eye out for updates on this, or just be sub to my channel and I'll do the info digging for you as always. Larry continues, miners are free to operate outside safe areas also, but a sensible area owner keeps taxes low enough to attract them. Then PvPers who get fed up of protected miners can simply choose to burn everything. They just need to arrange a siege enough to do that. So wars will be big, tears will be salty, and when the next day comes, it's payback time. Damn Larry, you can be brutal sometimes. He continues, protecting PvEers gives massive gains for large companies, but at the same time they make themselves a large target, so better be prepared. And if no one attacks them, they will come after you anyways, since you will get rich with the aid of PvEers. I'd love to hear the thoughts of some of the PvP groups on this one. Could they see themselves assisting those they once hunted to earn and be supplied more materials and money, so they can hit other PvP groups for that juicy combat content? Or will they stick to camping the gate or other hotspots for easy zero effort kills on mining ships? The roadmap is also not left out for our commenting pleasure too, with Larry saying they really need to update the roadmap with new features as well, as soon there is stuff dropping which isn't even listed. Maybe they can retire most of those ancient completed ones to make room for cool new things. Then they also need to do a proper explanation of the upcoming features which will wrap Siege properly, and introduce the solutions to the meaningful interactions. Very interesting comment here, and this is definitely something I'd like to see, making the roadmap more of a living, moving roadmap every few months. Completed items drop off the back, and shiny new things to look forward to get added to the front. It becomes less about filling up squares to show progress, and gives more of a quick glance view of what's just been completed, what's in progress, and what's to come. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And speaking of what's to come, Larry was asked if the alloy recipes had been finalised yet, for which he replies most, but they are just making some triple checks on their thinking. But players of course will make further checks after that on the PTU. I'm really excited to see what sort of alloys we will get to make. There will be surely more than what are used in the capital ship construction too. And by the sounds of it, this will be in our hands soon enough via the PTU, as it certainly needs testing before capital ships can go to live. And that's something we really don't see a lot of info on. Dependencies, that is. And that's finally something Larry gives us a few examples of in this next quote about PTU feature updates. He says they will be stacking the PTU patch with features for some more time before features come to the live server. Some fixes may be patched in between, but all major features will get even more updates before they hit live. Capitals need nav chip stuff, nav chips need endo looting needs item crates, and item crates need inventory v2. And that's just one chain. Capital building requires alloys require new materials require moons, and moons require, it never ends. With just these two examples, you start to see the bigger picture on why these bigger features have taken so long, because they are not standalone features. They all require other features to be properly implemented, and of course this takes time. This can be tough on the player base, however, because we are impatient, but you do have to remember we all chose to play Starbase, an in-progress, unfinished game, so we don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to complaining about the timeline. But the devs do need to be careful the player base doesn't die off in the meantime, and while that's not looking so hot right now, I have seen many players say they would rather wait and play something else instead of play the current iteration of the game. Only time will tell if people do indeed make a return to the game and make it feel alive again. But before you can start mopping up, salvage ships need to be decommissioned. And Larry comments on some of the changes here too, saying the decommission timer for outside safe zones will be more like 7 to 14 days. Inside the safe zone, decommission times are much longer, and inside player station safe zones there will be no timer. These are much shorter times than the 1 month previously planned. In case you don't know, if you leave your ship in plain old open space, it will be automatically decommissioned, as per the above rules. This encourages salvage and player cleanup of space. Although with the new deeds allowing hacking of a ship to claim, this only really affects those who have their salvage facility inside the origin safe zone. Thanks for sticking around, but we still got 2 more quotes before we dive into the gallery and the update. And this one's on hotspots being a content driver. And Larry explains that the current theory is that all hotspots will generate some type of interactions, trade hubs will generate peaceful interactions, and sieges will generate chaos interaction. But if that's not enough, they will do whatever it takes to generate meaningful interactions. But all of these can be promoted and further developed until they draw attention. All hotspots can be smaller and richer until more than one player is interested in them, for example. Trade hubs and trade may get larger incentive to do so until people do it. War, well, he guesses that this just needs stuff to destroy and players will handle the rest. Combine them all and you have a trade hub sitting on a rich ore spot, which means trade hub taxation zone pulls our miners and grows the trade hub, which means someone will decorate their military capital ship with a skull and crossbones and pay a visit. So current thinking is as long as we can incentivize trade hubs and or large station chains, the chaos will follow. You gotta give it to Frozenbyte and Larry, they really do want an active, living, breathing and dying universe for us to play in. It's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out over time and if the incentives they offer will be enough. Our last quote this week is from Reddit, where someone was asking if we can have binoculars. Larry chimes in saying they listed them as an upcoming tripod feature, but now that he thinks of it, a handheld version most certainly would be more useful, and he will go ask his team for it. Well, there you go, Larry dishing out so much of the good stuff over the last week. This info is so good to have, with all the new features edging ever closer to completion. Now let's check out those gallery images from this week's progress report. And our first image is a good one. This is our first mock-up of the siege attack screen. This shows time slots available after a minimum charge time, but pay no heed to the numbers used here for the charge and journey time. These are made up for the mock-up and are not real numbers. How the system works is the defenders pick preferred time slots for the various days of the week in advance of any attacks. The attacker gets to choose the exact siege start time from within those time slots, after the minimum charge time has been taken into account. This way both sides gets time to prepare for the attack and ensures the most people online for the event. Our next image is a brand new ship-based missile launcher. Please Frozenbyte, can we please just call them rockets already? This new launcher will look very similar to anyone who has played Space Engineers before, and by the looks of it are easily stackable too. The rear mounting should also make them much easier to integrate into ships too. So much so I'm finding myself wanting a new standard weapon mount that could do the same thing. We can only hope, eh? Our last image this week is another one of the smart casual furniture set. It certainly looks modular, but we're still lacking any context on where these will be used. Again, it's most likely for player made shops or the Moon City apartment rentals, but still no confirmation on this. With last week's focus on capital ships, the progress report returns with a project rundown update. So let's check out what's been completed over the last 2 weeks. And we'll start with the fast travel terminal. This capital ship screen saw several iterations, but it's now complete after 7 weeks work. Looting destroyed endos is also complete, with bodies dropping a loot box of any items in the player's inventory. This box is also dropped when the player insurance transfers from outside the safe zone or between separate safe zones, and took 8 weeks of work. Chaining remote explosive blast. Just a little quality of life update here, with explosives placed in range of another will trigger when hit with the blast, meaning we don't have to trigger each one separately anymore when detonating them, and this only took 3 weeks. Transferring company ownership. Pretty simple quality of life fix here and does exactly what it says in the name, with only 2 weeks spent on this. Thruster exhaust visualization. This is now built into the design of visualization modes over on the PTU, and will show you the corrosion zone of each thruster on your ship. Hopefully this comes to life soon, and this was a speedy 2-week turnaround. Categories for ship list in terminals. This will separate ships in your spawn list into 3 categories: owned, operated and company ships. Another 2-week turnaround on this nice, much needed little quality of life add-on. Selecting module toggles on easy build mode. This can help reduce a button press each time you want to go in and add something to your ship or station, and only took a week to add in. Lastly, skyscraper apartments are now complete after 10 weeks of work, and are yet still a mystery as to their purpose. Diving into new features now, and we kick off with the Siege Terminal. We just saw this in the gallery and will be used exclusively by the military capital ships. Unwelding modules without tools in easy build mode. Thank goodness for this one. Rearranging a station or a capital ship is hell when it takes so long to unweld block by block. I really hope this one has a fast turnaround as well. Menu buttons for HUD. We're getting a new box similar to the quick bar for easy access to the inventory or crafting, for example, for those who prefer to click instead of just use shortcut keys. Capital Ship UI Audio is bringing us new sound effects for the Capital Ship Fast Travel Terminal. Different icons for module categories. While modules are already separated, this will separate them further for separating out station, capital ship and factory modules. Quick select for modules in easy build mode. Pointing at a module and pressing a specific hotkey spawns a new module of the same type for quicker building, providing these types of modules aren't available in the player's storage. When dealing with many types of modules, this will make building stations or capital ships just that little bit quicker. And our last new feature is skyscraper holograms, as the Moon City gets a fresh update to their holograms. And that's it, you're all caught up on this week's Starbase news. Don't forget to come drop by my Discord or chip in to support the channel via donor box or YouTube memberships. All my monthly supporters are listed at the end of my videos, and all get access to a supporter channel on my Discord, as well as my eternal gratitude. As always, please smash that like button, share this video with your friends and faction, leave a comment with any questions you want answers to, and I'll see you in the next one. Kenetor, out.